Welcome to New Wave Global, ladies and gentlemen. I am Aizaz. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm joined by Aizaz Ahmed Chowdhury Saab, former Foreign Secretary of Pakistan. He also remained Pakistan's ambassador to the United States. Ladies and gentlemen, you know this current crisis that has raised its head in the subcontinent once again. Arch rivals India, Pakistan are locking horns in another controversy over an attack that took place in Kashmir. Pakistan, there was like some bloodshed that happened in Pakistan in Balochistan a few days prior to this attack in Kashmir. And now the two countries are suspending treaties and threatening each other of yet another war. So none better than Aizaz Ahmed Chaudhry Saab to speak about this issue. I'll start the conversation. We'll discuss a number of different dimensions of what the kind of politics or perhaps the international relational uh, transactions that have taken place since the attack a few days ago. But let me first welcome him. Thank you so much, sir, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's late in the day in Pakistan. Thank you, sir. You took time for this. I'll start with uh, the kind of behavior of the two states or the two actors involved. You've led the Pakistani Foreign Affairs Ministry. What? How do you define the Indian inclination to sort of blame Pakistan uh, immediately after such an incident takes place? Whereas when the Jaffer Express happened, we did not see the same behavior from the Pakistani side. And if I look back at events like the Pathankot, I think at a time when you were foreign secretary, Pakistan has never been blaming India, but Pathankot, Uri, and now this or Pulwama, the Indian authorities are very eager to blame Pakistan, even when no evidence has surfaced. Why do you think that behavior? Why do you think there's that difference of behavior from the two sides?
Well, Pakistan has always been an electoral issue in India, a subject of opinions in nearly every facet of Indian life. In Pakistan, India is discussed only in the context of the need to have a normal relationship with neighbors. That's not the same in India. So what we see is that in India, Pakistan is demonized for a variety of reasons. And here also, whenever a terrorist incident happens, a pattern has emerged that India would nearly always blame Pakistan uh, on most occasions without first investigating the incident. And that's a pattern which is quite disturbing. In recent days, when the BJP led government has taken roots in India, an ideologically driven government trying to create a Hindu Rashtra, this pattern has taken a new life. And in Pakistan also, the reaction is that some people are now inclined to think that perhaps India has not accepted Pakistan's existence and wants to undo Pakistan. Now, this point of view is increasingly overwhelming the other dominant viewpoint in Pakistan, which was that no, India is a neighbor and we got to have good relations with our neighbors and let's keep trying. So, this new pattern, unfortunately, in India of blaming Pakistan for every incident, no matter what, is not really helping the cause of peace in South Asia. We in Pakistan would really not like to blame India instantly. It is only after we received concrete evidence in the form of an actually a serving Indian raw agent who is still in our custody, and then irrefutable proof that India was carrying out targeted assassinations inside. Pakistan, Indian state operatives were involved, and only that part is brought forth. But we just don't really come out at the drop of the hat with allegations against India. I don't know whether this pattern will change, but this is a pattern we have come to live
But sir, just on that point, if the Pakistani authorities, for instance, in the recent attack on Jaffer Express, believe that the BLA was behind it, which draws some support from the Indian state or perhaps authorities situated within India or other groups situated within India. I mean, why didn't the Pakistani authorities, even if I understand the argument that Pakistan doesn't start that kind of chest thumping at the drop of a hat, but the Pakistani authorities could have at least sort of registered that there was some Indian hand behind this. Do you think that, and one sort of school of thought why Pakistan doesn't behave in the same way is that there is like a stark difference between the kind of soft power that the two countries have. Pakistani authorities are kind of less inclined to blame India because they think that the world would not believe us, or we perhaps do not have the same kind of soft power to make the world believe that India is behind this. Do you think that that narrative has some credence?
Well, we make a particular allegation and then it sells or it doesn't sell. That's the second part. But in the first place, we don't make that allegation just because the world will not believe us. No, not because of that. I think the first and the primary reason for Pakistan not to instantly blame India is because we want to be sure that it is India, that we must investigate first, and then we also want to preserve the normal, good neighborly relations with India as much as we can, because it is in our interest to have a peaceful eastern neighbor. We have had quite a bit of commotion on our western neighbor for the last several decades. And therefore, Pakistan doesn't want a two-front situation. So the tendency in Pakistan has been that we don't want to blame India unless it is really required. As for what happens to when we extend our allegation, or what when India extends its allegations, there you may say that India's soft power might count a little. Uh, uh, but even in the recent case, India has tried hard to convince everybody in the international community of Pakistani hand. But the world doesn't seem to have they've condemned
Yeah.
the terrorist attack, but they have not really blamed Pakistan. They haven't joined India in blaming Pakistan. So that clearly shows that there are limits to even that soft power that India may have. Um, India is a big economic market. It's a big country. India is a useful partner for the US in its competition with China. All that aside, but everybody also knows that India could go for terrorism elsewhere. After all, it was Canadian Prime Minister who brought it out. It is the Americans who had also alleged that there was one person who was being targeted for killing. He didn't get killed. Similar news are emanating from UK, from Australia, and let alone the other smaller countries in South Asia. So I would say that India doesn't have really that much credibility when it comes to raising allegations against Pakistan. For the last 9 years, since 2016, India has been trying to diplomatically isolate Pakistan, but it hasn't really succeeded in that. The world still likes to stay engaged with Pakistan, and they don't really tend to believe India's allegations. And I think Indians should now begin to see this writing on the wall.
That's a very interesting segue into my next question, sir. I wanted to ask this that do you recall of an instance in the past, since you've served in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and you've also represented Pakistan in other countries? of a time when Pakistan was really successfully incriminated for something that took place in India. I know that since Pathankot happened, and I would ask a question about Pathankot, whether it was a tipping point, which would be my next question. But do you recall a time when Pakistan was really successfully incriminated by India for something that took place within the Indian territory? And if that happened in the past, why do you think things have changed? Is it that India has been blowing that trumpet all too often now, and there is fatigue amongst Western powers? Do you think that's one of the reasons?
Well, I don't know. I can't really say for sure whether Pakistan has been incriminated in any particular incident. Yes, it is true that there have been non-state actors who were always agitating that the state-to-state efforts to resolve the Kashmir dispute have not been successful. And if you recall, probably after the Mumbai attack, the then UK Secretary of State, the Secretary, Foreign Secretary, David Miliband, he's made a statement inside India that if Kashmir issue was resolved, the militants will have no reason to pick arms. In fact, no, will have at least not this reason to pick up arms. So Indians were, of course, very, very unhappy about it because they just don't want to resolve conflict in Kashmir. Even now, for the last 6 years, the Kashmiris are without a statehood. Foreign subjects are being settled there. They are very, very apprehensive. Even the pro-Indian Kashmiris are really quite upset. I saw a statement from Mehbooba Mufti, who formed a BJP coalition government there. And she said that perhaps our forefathers made a mistake by joining India. So uh, I think it goes back to the Kashmir dispute, where many militants and non-state actors continue to want to extend support to their Kashmiri brethren. Although Pakistan has taken enormous steps to close the LOC for any infiltration, it has banned all these entities. It is now taking as much action as possible to make sure that they don't really act against India or against, for that matter, any other country. Uh, I don't think in present day Pakistan can ever be faulted on that. Even Financial Action Task Force came and also took account of the actions taken by Pakistan. United Nations 1373 a Counterterrorism Committee also visited Pakistan several times. They also issued reports. And for the last several years, there was peace in Indian occupied Kashmir. Tourism was booming. Why would Pakistan sponsor such an activity which will bring bad name to the Kashmir cause? But I can't really think of, yes, the turning point said Pathankot was there, but I think before that, Mumbai was probably the biggest hurt to Pakistan-India relations when the sort of dislike went permeated to the people's level. And there is a trial going on for the Mumbai suspects. India is not providing full information. Otherwise, these people would have been long prosecuted. But my sense is that the only time where I believe Pakistan may have uh, not taken the right action was when the Kargil happened. I
Hmm.
think that was politically not the right timing. But when it comes to India, we see that every time this process is going on, one little incident happens and they just simply suspend the dialogue. That means that they serve the very objectives of the militants who do not want to see improved relations between these two countries. So we have argued with them many times with the Indians that when you suspend the dialogue, you actually serve the very objective for which these people do all these things.
Yeah.
If we continue to hold the dialogue, perhaps we can together apprehend these elements. Sometimes, they just act because they feel that they need to act.
Sir, you mentioned the Mumbai attacks, and I didn't intend to go that back, but I'll come back to Pathankot and why I thought that was a tipping point because um, uh, the Indian Prime Minister Modi visited Pakistan in a surprise visit, and I think you were Foreign Secretary of Pakistan then, and then the Pathankot happened, and some one school of thought said that the deep state within Pakistan didn't want the two countries to come together, which orchestrated the Pathankot attack, and then the relations were suspended again. And then a series of events happened. The Uri attack happened, and then the Pulwama happened, which is why I thought that may perhaps the two countries may perhaps have come closer right at the cusp of when the Pathankot event happened. So do you think in that sense it was a tipping point, or do you still believe that, the Mumbai attacks were a bigger watershed moment?
No, I think Pathankot was a huge turning point because in 2015, Pakistan had signed China-Pakistan Economic Corridor when President Xi had visited Pakistan in April of 2015. Then we had a very highest level engagement with the United States. I was present in that meeting with President Obama. It went off very well. We had Sushma Swaraj, Indian Foreign Minister, visiting Pakistan in December and resuming the comprehensive bilateral dialogue. Then we had the coordination group formed with Afghanistan, China, and United States with Ashraf Ghani inside Islamabad. So
I
we
think
were really
SCO membership was also taking place, sir. Sorry to cut you at the same time.
at the same time. So we were really on the all four diplomatic initiatives were simply great, and so whoever did Pathankot did not make any good service for Pakistan. I think, and there is no reason for us to believe that our armed forces or deep state or intelligence agencies would do, because they could see that Pakistan was rising. Why would they support a group doing this kind of nasty things right at that time? So, but whoever did that, I believe, did not serve Pakistan well. And I think if India had continued to have patience and cooperate with us, perhaps we could have reached the culprits and punished them.
Sir, do you also think that, the kind of role that Pakistan had, and I've been reading comments from the general public in India beneath, stories that are published about this current attack or this current impasse, and different media talks or perhaps interviews being published on it. And one thread or one theme that kind of permeates across all these episodes is that the Indian public says that Pakistan has had a role in training the Mujahideen, and then perhaps Pakistan's role following the 9/11. And something of to that tune was admitted by the Pakistani defense minister a few days ago in his interview with Yalda Hakim. Do you think that those concerns are valid? And do you think it is rational for the Indian audience or the Indian public to sort of, you know, uh, imagine that Pakistani role within the global polity and then take it to themselves voluntarily, saying that whatever Pakistan did in Afghanistan is exactly the same that Pakistan is doing through proxies in India? Do you think that's rational of the Indian public to sort of assume that?
Well, I also heard the statement of Pakistani defense minister. To me, it came across a reference to the Afghan jihad,
Yeah,
to the Mujahideen who were fighting in Afghanistan. It had nothing to do with what's happening in India. So
exactly.
to extrapolate those comments on the Indian situation is not really fair.
Hmm.
That was something only specific to Afghanistan. In
Hmm.
case of India, uh, there are 2 points of contention. One is Kashmir, because we believe that um, it is an unfinished agenda of the partition, in the sense that India had promised that it pledged, it had pledged, actually, Prime Minister of India had pledged that there will be a plebiscite. India backed down on that, did not want to implement that. And then also, wars were fought, peace attempts were made, but somehow this issue has not been resolved. And therefore, Pakistan believes that we were flexible. If the UN Security Council resolutions did not deliver, we were open to 4-point formula, for example. But nothing somehow has come about. The other issue, which to India is the core issue, is the terrorism issue, cross-border terrorism. Uh, Unfortunately, at this time, cross-border terrorism exactly on is Pakistan's grievance, because Pakistan believes that India's footprints can be seen in Balochistan. Their fingerprints actually can be seen on assassinations being carried out in Pakistan. So Pakistan also has this concern. So I would say that Pakistan should actually demand India to place it on the agenda for talks. We don't shy that. Apart from Kashmir, we can also discuss it, because it's a mutual, it's a probably, I would say, it's a common enemy, terrorism, and Pakistan is also suffering from the same menace that India is suffering. So there's no reason for spending all our energies in blaming each other. Rather, we should actually be working together to fight terrorism, and that would probably be a much better way than tactical point scoring of picking up selectively statements from one Pakistani minister or the other.
So I think one of the diplomatic failures, I would dare to use that term, that Pakistan has had is that, and this is something that the defense minister also mentioned again, and I've been hearing this for the past many years from the Pakistani Foreign Office authorities as well, that Pakistan is not a terrorist state as the Indians would like to paint us, but rather a great victim of terrorism. But then again, I mean, I understand that there is that trust deficit on the Indian side because of the role that Pakistan has had in Afghanistan or the region, or perhaps after 9/11 or in the 80s, something that you also allude to. But why post 9/11, despite, the economic losses that Pakistan had to bear and the number of lives that we laid in the war on terror, why hasn't Pakistan successfully been able to sort of assert this to the world that we are indeed a victim of terrorism?
I think the world does recognize that, but that's not enough. Being a victim of terrorism will elicit some kind of sympathy, but the world expects that we as a nation need to do much more to deal with this problem on our own. And that's why I believe that when Pakistan doesn't blame India for any and every incident, it calls upon its authorities to make sure that there is no further accident. After all, 9/11 happened in the United States, but did they give up their quality of life or their events or their, because of 9/11? They didn't let that happen again. So I think it ultimately calls upon Pakistani authorities to make sure that no matter how much the foreign agents want to come and harm you, it is our country, we got to defend it. And what I've seen is that there are fault lines. There are fault lines in which the foreigners come and pump fuel into it. So if you want to really make Pakistan safe, blaming other countries will not help that much. Working inside Pakistan to make sure that there are these fault lines do not exist anymore, that we address them, and don't provide any excuse for outsiders to work on them. So I think this is a more pragmatic approach which will help Pakistan more than casting all our blames on India or Afghanistan.
We've discussed principles behind the India-Pakistan relations a lot, sir, over the past 20-25 minutes or so. We're nearing the end of the show. So, on that cue of pragmatism, I'll ask my last question. Um, What do you think is going to happen now? The Indians started with something they called surgical strikes, which was a new term for me back in 2019, which kind of backfired with one of their soldiers caught as a prisoner of war in Pakistan and then later returned. And now all Indian media channels have become war theaters as I see them, and they're calling out for war every day. What do you think is going to happen now, and what would be the drop scene of this movie?
I I hope that better sense will prevail because Indians must know that Pakistan will respond. I think that resolve has been demonstrated amply. And if India acts, Pakistan will act. Now there is very much a risk of escalation. In India, the Hindutva-driven government of Prime Minister Modi, has indulged in such a hyper nationalism for the last several years that it has charged up the environment, and people want regular feeding of Pakistan being an enemy state. They want their prime minister now to act, and therefore the prime minister has actually become a hostage to very rhetoric he helped generate within their
Hmm.
people. And
Hmm.
that's a very, very dangerous scenario because they would know that Pakistan would act, and if there is escalation, will always reach nuclear levels, and that would be awful for both countries. And that's not the path you want to go to. I can only hope that they will not act. My own sense is that probably there are enough saner elements within India who would then like to prevail upon this Hindutva crowd, this Hindu extremist crowd, that don't go that path because you will also get equally hurt. If that prevails, I think on Pakistan side at least we are very clear. We are going to match only the actions that India will take. Nothing more, nothing less. So Pakistan is not the one who will initiate any kind of action. So even in Pulwama, it was not us who initiated. It was India which carried out that surgical strike. We only downed their plane and their pilot. And that pilot was also released as a goodwill gesture. But later on, Prime Minister Modi said that it would have been a qatl ki raat, it would have been a night of murders, if massacre, if pilot had not been returned. So goodwill gesture also became subject to tactical point scoring. We hope that the international community will also play its role in weighing in both countries and asking them to step back from any precipice. We hope that in the larger interest of peace and stability of the subcontinent, Indians will not take any rash action.
Thank you so much for your eloquence and for very straight answers. I'm sure my audience would have learned a lot from you, sir. Thank you for taking our time.
Very much. Thank you very much.